I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are here with you again. Just a news update, news of the week. Our next two podcasts were pre-recorded before everything that's happened since February 1st, or January 1st, really. So we just wanted to do news of the week, give you an update of what's going on.
Yeah, just keep it a little bit current. Especially because, and you'll see in episode 4, we are way off already on our predictions. But anyways, this week we had quite a few car launches.
Yeah.
It was Kick, Sauber, Alpine, Haas and Williams. Yeah. And Visa Cash App.
Yeah.
V-Carb.
And McLaren released
McLaren
livery,
but not the car. Yeah. A couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
The one thing, I guess the big thing that stands out about all those is they're all just black.
Yeah.
There's just tons of carbon everywhere, which is disappointing.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't mind the steak one. I actually kind of like
steak,
it.
The lime green.
Yeah.
I like it. But I mean, once those cars start driving 200 kilometers an hour,
we are not struggling to figure out.
Yeah, when they're in the wall, the gravel, we're not gonna know who it is.
Yeah. You won't be able to see the difference really between like the Williams and the Alpine.
No.
Which Alpine teased like a camo.
Yeah.
And then
no camo.
Nothing. It was just
barely any pink.
Yeah. Bare bones. They revealed the pink livery, and it's just they flipped the blues and the pinks. Yeah. So nothing too exciting there.
Yeah.
I do like AlphaTauris. It resembles an old Toro Rosso. Sorry, what are we again? No, sorry, Racing Bulls, Visa Cash App.
Yeah.
I can't do it. V-Carb, we'll just leave it at V-Carb.
Yeah.
Vegan carbs. Yeah. It resembles an old Toro Rosso. I'm all messed up now.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I like the colors.
Yeah.
The only thing is that, have you seen like the front on view?
No, I don't think
There's like a white band across the top of it that looks like somebody put like a stitch thing on their nose, or like a Biore strip. Yeah, no, that kind of throws me off a bit.
Okay. I'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't really like about it. But otherwise, it was refreshing that it's not carbon. It was actually painted.
Yes.
So, I mean, good on them for making that decision.
I'm going to have to look at it again.
And they're all going the Red Bull route. They are following the similar kind of side pod cut. And the inlet for the side pod has that little tongue sticking out at the bottom. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see
what then Red Bull does.
What Red Bull does. I assume they would stick to a pretty similar design. Probably. But if everybody's if most people are flipping to the side pods, do they now change their floor? Because everybody saw Checo's floor was it Monaco? Yeah. Or was that last year? Either way, they've all seen how it kind of works and how it works together.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see when the first car has to be craned out.
Yeah.
If it's going to be...
If it's a replica of Red Bull.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're probably going to see something like that.
I think so too.
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be different liveries. Everybody, makes a special nod to the U.S. and to wherever they are. But... yeah, I'm not impressed with the colors so far. I mean, they're not the most colorful teams to begin with. No. But...
I mean, McLaren didn't really change too much. They took out the blue.
Yeah.
It's just orange and carbon.
Yeah.
Which was pretty similar to last year. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm hoping for more color in the next 5. So we have 5.
We have 5. We have 5 more. McLaren. Yeah, we have Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes Alpine, Aston Martin, and I'm missing one.
McLaren. I mean,
McLaren's car launch. Yes, McLaren's car launch.
They showed a livery. Is it going to be the one in the launch? Maybe not, but maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the 5 remaining cars probably have the most color in their like symbols anyways. So we'll see what
what they come up with, and that's all coming up next week. So we'll have by the end of, I think it's by Thursday or Friday next week.
15th.
Yeah. So we'll have another update on those as well. Yeah.
And then we go into preseason. So I mean, they gotta get their stuff
ready. They have to be ready. All those cars are gonna be carted off to Bahrain. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's the car reveals.
That's the car reveals. Yeah. Other news that we had: Singapore might not be a thing. Government corruption, and the person who's doling out all this money for F1 to come out is being investigated, or he was removed from office. I can't remember if it was removed or investigated. But everything he's purchased, or acquired, or given money to, or taken money for, is being questioned. So who knows? Who knows what this can come of that? Is it going to affect this year's Singapore GP?
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. I was thinking like long term, but
I think the long term is going to be in question. But would it be? I don't know. Could it be this year already? If the investigation gets wrapped up in time, who knows?
Because Singapore is towards the end of the season, or did they?
No, it's I think it's mid-season, right? Because that's when it's after the break. Because that's where Carlos won last year.
Yeah.
And I remember that was after the break.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. Maybe it is.
I mean, they've got time to figure it out.
They do have time.
British GP.
Yep, signed on for another 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. So more Silverstone, which is great. It's a great track. So.
Yeah. I think it'll be good for Lewis, maybe.
Well, yeah, and they can't take take away a British GP.
No.
I mean, unless you're going to replace it somewhere else, but they're not going to take it away. No. They have to have a British GP.
I mean, they've got, 4 British drivers?
4 British drivers. That's usually their biggest turnouts. Yeah. One of their biggest turnouts is in England. Yeah. They put money into their F1. Well, most of the teams are based out of Britain. Yeah. So,
everybody's got a factory there.
Yeah. So, that wasn't going anywhere. I didn't think that was even a question.
Yeah.
The Madrid GP, which is supposed to be a hybrid street track, hybrid designated track, from what I heard, which is weird. Like how,
like half in a stadium, and then you get exit the stadium. Like
is it going to be similar to like Mexico, where they drive through a baseball field, right?
Yeah. And the roundabout. That's
going to be weird. That's going to be like, what's going to happen when... So I don't know. Usually in Canada, our roundabouts have some kind of boulevard or something in the middle that's a little bit raised.
Yeah.
But I guess in Europe, driving through enough roundabouts, there's usually something in the middle. Like what happens when somebody misses their braking after a long straight? Or are they just going to go just catch air?
Go right through the roundabout. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what it does. I mean, could they do it after a long straight? No.
If I remember correct, I don't think it was a long straight, but I think it's a straight into that.
To the roundabout.
So they're gonna be picking up speed, and they're gonna have to stop really quick to make that roundabout. I would assume. I haven't seen the roundabout.
But they're not going right around it.
No, they're just doing like a half circle, semicircle, and then off to the other end.
Can you imagine a roundabout in the middle of it?
Oh, that would just be a disaster. That would be a disaster.
Yeah, okay.
Lance would hit everybody.
Yeah. Just go right.
Just right. Yeah.
Just saying.
All
right. Is that all the?
No, we have the rumors of possibly they've copyrighted the name or something.
Chicago, yeah.
And they copyrighted a bunch of names. Chicago GP, something else for an American GP.
Yeah.
I mean, a 4th American GP. I get you're trying to grow the sport, the brand in America. Do we really need another one? And why is Chicago?
No, I agree. I don't know if we need another US, and I don't know if Chicago would have been my first choice.
Oh, definitely not.
But like, where else would they choose? Now that as I think about it, like, where else in the US would they choose?
Well, it means that Chicago's likely a street track.
Yeah.
Which, do they need that? I mean, no. They could go to, go somewhere that NASCAR's big, right? Where they might be more into racing, right? Go to Tennessee, go to Utah. I don't know,
Texas,
somewhere you can build a designated track for it.
Yeah.
Right. They have everything on either. Oh no, Texas is, I guess, Central.
Yeah.
America, not Central America, but centralized in U.S.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of logistics there, but
yeah, I really can't think of, and maybe that's like, are they just kind of pulling at like straws? Like California doesn't really make sense because they have Vegas, but
it would be a nice setting. But
yeah,
I think they could have also. I mean, if you're bringing in Ford, Red Bull's bringing in Ford 2016. Why not Michigan? Right, you go to Detroit or something. Maybe not Detroit. Those cars will end up without wheels on them before the GP starts. But
yeah.
Drop my phone.
There you go. Your notes.
It's down there.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I could see Michigan, but then again, it has to be something in the summer.
I think most places. Well, so would Chicago.
Well, yeah, true.
And if you're going to Chicago and Max already complains about wind, why go to the Windy City?
Good point. The Windy City is not ideal for Max.
Yeah, no.
For Max,
he's gonna hate that.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest one, obviously, everybody's heard. Christian Horner being investigated for inappropriate conduct, which we now know it wasn't. It doesn't seem to be sexual conduct. It was more so controlling and coercive behavior, which to me sounds like he's just being the boss.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why. How bad could it be?
Yeah, that someone's complaining about it.
Yeah.
And
what's the proof?
Yeah, and to the point that it's, having these interviews, or there, it was rumored that it was disciplinary talks or what have you, but
well, and there's room, like people that are close to like BBC or whatever are expecting him not to survive in his role. Like, how bad could it be?
I'm very curious to what the proof is, and is it just, and are there more people? Like, is it really just this one person? That's
the other thing. Are more people going to come forward, or is he like this with everybody, and everybody just gets along with, like, how could you not be, I guess, perceived as controlling and coercive, especially in a sport like F1, right? I mean, it's literally, it's a sport where everybody wins together or they lose together.
Yeah.
Right? You screw up one thing, everybody loses. Right? They're not going to have a successful, it's not like a marketing team or whatever. He's got a lot on his shoulders. I can see you would have to be.
Tensions are high.
Yeah.
At all times.
Yeah, you would have to be an asshole at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we talked about this during the season, even just like Max and GP, like their relationship, like how much.
Well, where was the HR call on those?
Exactly. Like, where is like the therapy sessions that are happening? It might not be the best industry for certain people.
No.
Certain personalities, but again, we don't know anything of what was said. We don't know. We're just guessing.
Yeah, we're guessing.
But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I hope this is not how Christian goes out. Love or hate him. He's done a great job there, so he's
been there for 16 years.
Yeah, I hope this is not how he goes out.
No.
It's a lot of distraction before.
Well, especially with their car launch coming up.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is they don't believe that this will be wrapped up. It's not going to be wrapped up by the launch.
Yeah.
It may not even be wrapped up by preseason testing.
Yeah.
Which makes you think, again, if it's not going to be wrapped up this quickly, then there's a lot of gray area in what's being said, in my opinion. Like, if it was black and white, easy, he'd be gone or not, or whatever.
Yeah. And with their launch coming up this week, is he there? Does it say a lot if he's not there?
I think he is, only because he's also the CEO of Red Bull Racing. Yeah. I think he would have the gusto to say, F you guys, I'm going to be there.
I'm going to be there.
I'm innocent, because he's already said it up and down. He thinks he's innocent. He doesn't put any kind of credence in these complaints.
Yeah.
And so I think he'll be there unless he gets told
it's best to stay
from actual Red Bull.
Yeah.
Don't go.
Don't go.
Yeah.
The other scenario that I did see about it is that there is a possibility that he would remain principal, but no longer be CEO. Which, I don't know how that would.
Well, I guess it would depend on what the relationship is with the person who's making that complaint, right? Yeah. So if that's a rumor that's been thrown around, then it's obviously not in the day-to-day racing rules, right? Yeah, like you're not going to be the people somebody that's traveling with them, right? Yeah. It might be in an engineering department or
someone at the factory or
or who knows.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see more to come on that, and it might be in the next week. It might be 3 months from now.
Who knows?
Have more on that.
It's good that Red Bull's taking their time to actually get it right, though. Hopefully.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the reason for it.
Yeah. Just delaying with everything.
But that's the news that we had for this week.
Yeah.
So expect another news update before we go live next week again. A little disclaimer: we did have some more technical difficulties in the upcoming episode right after this.
Full of technical.
We did record these 4 episodes, the first 4 episodes, in 2 different days. So this episode and the next episode were recorded on the same day.
Yeah.
Just with some costume changes. There are some technical difficulties. That's on my part because I didn't check which way the microphone was facing. You can hear me, but it sounds terrible. And there are a lot of pops, and this is why I don't touch the desk at all anymore. Magic hands. Yeah, but please enjoy. It's still a good episode.
Yeah. Both of them are good episodes.
They're both good episodes. Yeah.
All of those are good episodes.
They're all going to be. But yeah, other than that, enjoy the episode, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Fresh Set. I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're here with episode number 3.
Yeah, so
we've made it.
we don't know if we've made it. These are all pre-recorded, so we might just this might be a fool's errand. But we figured we'd go through the 2023 season, talk about, and we'll rank our drivers.
Yeah.
We'll have a little fun with it as we see fit. We don't really care if it doesn't always have to be about the performance on track, which may piss some people off, but I mean, who cares? It's our podcast, not theirs.
Exactly.
And then we'll go through our constructors, and we'll see where they fall for us.
I mean, I think
so
we're gonna start from.
We're gonna start from the
bottom.
Right?
Okay.
So the way we had it structured, we'll go through our drivers 20 to 16, like the last 5 drivers. Technically, the last 7 drivers.
I did
too.
Okay.
I included every driver that was on.
Okay.
That took part.
Okay.
But yeah. So yeah, you know what? Go ahead. If you want to start.
Okay.
With number 22, I guess.
Number 22. It's got to be Nick DeVries for me.
Yeah,
he just didn't do.
No, I had
anything.
I had him in the same. He was 22 for me. I mean, his best finish was in Monaco. I mean, I have his finishes here. I mean, his qualifying was terrible too.
I mean, yeah. He just didn't do enough for me to be like, you're.
Well, for somebody that was so highly touted, like, he's going to come in, he's going to be a great driver. He already is a great driver. He was in Formula E.
Yeah.
And then
he didn't do anything.
We didn't even see him.
No.
We didn't even see him. And that's not because he got kicked out. We didn't even see him when he was racing. He had a 19th place qualifying, 18, 15, 18, 15, 12, 14, 17, 20, 18. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
Right? And the only thing his highest finish was 12th. And that's because he started in 12th from Monaco. Right? Fair. So, I mean, really,
I
did
think
he
it's
deserve more time?
We kind of talked about this. I don't know.
I don't think so.
No.
To me, I don't know.
Because, I mean, and we'll get there, but, I feel like Liam Lawson came in and did a lot.
Well, we'll get to that then, I guess.
In just a short amount of time.
I'm interested to see where you have him.
Okay. So 21, I have Logan Sargent.
Me too. The man who finished the whole season was still lower than...
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. I think he'll have a better year.
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
We'll get to the next episode. But, yeah, I mean, it was just a terrible season.
Yeah.
70 DNFs, highest in damage. He just basically filled Latifi's shoes to the best of his ability, which was not very hard. Yeah.
Okay. 20, I had, this is probably no surprise to you. I have Lance.
Oh, see, I was different.
Oh.
I put Lance a little bit higher. For me, I had K-Mag.
Really?
I did.
You'll be shocked where I have K-Mag. Okay.
Oh, really? So, go ahead. Give your reasons. Yeah.
Lance is not my favorite. The temper
So it's just personal bias.
Yeah, like the temper tantrums. He had like great qualifying in some races, but it just didn't do it for me. Sorry, Lance.
Okay. I mean, Lance doesn't make it out of my bottom 5 here, or 7, whatever it is. But yeah, no, I had K-Mag. I had him out qualified by his teammate pretty consistently.
True.
Only 3 points on the season, right? And so again, he was another one who was just basically non-existent. I mean, I know he's in a Haas, but I mean, even Nico could find some flashes of, hey, look, he's on the board. You can see it, like you noticed him, right?
Yeah.
And so K-Mag to me was just
not performing.
Wasn't there.
Okay, fair. 19, I had Liam. I had Liam Lawson.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel like he came in not driving in an F1 car, and he outperformed Nick.
So you're going to be surprised where I have Liam.
Oh,
you're going to be very surprised where
okay.
I have Liam.
So 19, yeah, so I think he outperformed, and I think from he got on the grid, we just kind of kept hearing his name.
Yeah.
Like I think everybody was just kind of shocked, and he just surprised me. So I was like, okay.
Okay, fair enough. I agree with that. Well, I don't agree with it, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Okay.
See, for me, 19, I had Joe.
Okay.
I didn't have. I mean, he had safe drives.
Yeah.
Right. He was pretty. He had 3 ninth place finishes from what I had. Right. So I mean, again, another driver you didn't really notice. He was in the slowest car in the grid.
Yeah.
He pulled out whatever he could out of the car. Good on him. But to me, it just wasn't. It wasn't really a season to remember.
Yes.
Or you know what I mean. He had more memorable seasons than the season before because he flew into a barrier.
Yeah. He flipped his car. Yeah. Well, he didn't flip his car, but yeah. So I actually had him 18th, and kind of for the same reason. Like it's just nothing memorable, nothing. He just drove the car.
Yeah.
He just did his job, head down, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's just nothing memorable about the season for him.
See, in 18, I had Valtteri. I had Bottas. He was able to pull 10 points somehow out of that slowest car.
You're going to be very shocked. It is for me.
I mean, he beats out everybody else down there just because his experience is what got him the points, right?
Okay.
He was able to drive really well in a shit box, basically.
Yeah.
Several $1 million shit box, but you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Oh, hold on.
Hopefully this doesn't mess up.
Technical
Technical
difficulties.
difficulties again. So no, I had him. It was just, like I said, it was just his experience over anything else that got him to there. But otherwise, it was a pretty uneventful season.
Okay, so you had him in
18.
18. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're
17. I had Nico. Hülkenberg in 17. I don't really know why, and I feel like my 16 is going to shock you at why I don't have that reverse. It's actually kind of shocking me at the moment.
Okay.
But again, I think it was just I agree, he did outperform his teammate. But I feel like this was his first season back. And I just feel like he just didn't do as well as I thought he would have.
Yeah, but his first season back, I mean, and then I'll explain it when I get to him. But to be able to pull what he did out of a car that finished last in the constructors, and to be able to, like, you were actually mentioning his name, I feel like he deserved a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But actually, that's a few drivers for me this year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair. So I had him at 17. Okay, so you're 17.
My 17 was Lance Stroll.
Oh.
That's where I had him.
Okay.
I mean, again, he was way beat by his teammate. Like, Alonso just killed him. I mean, he was half a second slower in a car that should have been much faster.
Yeah.
He did have some good race finishes, and this is why he's not right any lower. Some fifths, a lot of top 10 finishes actually. I got him some points. But to be beat out by his teammate and only get, I think, what he got, 78 points? Something like that? 70-something points, where Alonso was in the 200s.
And had podium after podium.
Yeah, exactly.
Podium.
Right? There was that. A lot of the focus was more on some of his off-track stuff than it was. I mean, good on him for coming back the way he did from this hand injury. And coming early into a car that people didn't even think he was going to start the season.
Yeah.
Which was everybody was, on him like he was going to be great this season because of it. And then, like you said, he had the blow up. He had all the tennis rumors. It just didn't seem like he was into the season.
Yeah.
He wasn't
he wasn't his season. And maybe he'll turn it around this one, maybe. We'll see how we have him next year. So 16, I have Esteban Ocon.
Oh, see.
I'm surprised he's not lower for you.
He was. He was. I went back and forth and back and forth.
He's in like a weird villain era. And I don't know. I don't know why I didn't have him lower, but I think he drove the car. He did what he had to do in most races and most qualifying, but it just wasn't anything like spectacular. So, 16.
See, 16 for me was, and you're probably going to hate this, but Daniel Ricciardo for me. I don't think he had how many races? He had 7, 9 races, something like that. He had enough to show what he had. I think the hype of him putting in a spectacular simulation lap in a Red Bull.
A very different car.
Yeah. I mean, and I wanted to put him higher, but I think that was personal bias because everybody loves him. Everybody wants to see him in Formula One.
Yeah.
I had him. At some points, I had him at like 12. Then I brought him down to like 16. Then I put him back up to 14. Then I just finally decided on 16. He only scored in Mexico. He only had 1 race where he scored.
Yeah.
And that's a little unfair just because he only had a limited amount of races. But to me, that was... I didn't think he had enough of a great finish. And he was beat out by Yuki a lot of times. Right? Yeah. In the same car. So to me, that's why he was at 16.
Okay.
So I'm surprised. We had very, very different.
Very. I mean, I have Yuki at 15. So, I mean, there was a lot of races with Yuki that they weren't memorable. Like all of a sudden he'd be like in 12th or 11th, and one of the last few races he was very high up. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like they made him lose his spark a little bit. Maybe it was the attention from Daniel coming back, switching teammates a couple of times. I don't know. I just wasn't wowed by Yuki this year. But he drove the car. He did what he needed to do most times. And so he's 15 for me.
We're vastly different. So 15 for me was, that was Nico. To me, I had Nico. Again, a lot of it, I mean, he stole Mr. Saturday from George.
Yeah.
To me, right? To be able to pull all those Q3 starts in the Haas, I mean, he dropped down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it's that Haas was basically a 1-lap wonder. Right?
That's all you need in qualifying.
That's all you need in qualifying. It didn't turn into a lot of points.
Right.
It didn't really turn into much. But to be impressive, even for 3 qualifyings, 3 sessions.
Yeah.
In a Haas that really they had no more excuses. That's why I put him up into 15, just because he had 8 Q3 appearances, more than a third of the season. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I don't remember that. Like they're just not memorable moments.
I remember hearing his name a lot, so I went back and I looked. I'm like, wait, how many times did he actually before I actually settle on 15?
Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Yeah. So that was 15. I have K-Mag as 14.
That high.
Yeah.
That high. 14. Okay, you're right. Like I am shocked.
It's just, I feel like both Haas drivers, we did hear their names a lot. Whether they were finishing races or qualifying. I think them coming back together as teammates is also just quality.
Yeah.
K-Mag, I don't know. I feel kind of bad for him for some reason. I don't know why, but I just kind of feel bad for him. It was kind of a personal reason. personal feelings to put him in.
Well, I could see kind of feeling bad for him, but not really. Just because he had a better season in that Haas last year.
Yes. I agree.
Especially coming in for a thrown out Russian. And he drove it much better than he drove it this year. But I think it was more so on him. I don't know if that was a mental block, just because Nico was doing a little bit better, or maybe more of the attention was on Nico.
He also had a baby this year. Or his wife had a baby.
Possibly. Yeah, well, he didn't. Well.
Okay, so who did you have?
My 14 was Ocon.
Okay. I'm a little shocked that you had him that high.
He finished third in Monaco. He did have a strong first half of the season, other than the fact that he crashed into his own teammate. And then he had 3 penalties, 20-second penalties in one afternoon.
I actually felt bad for him that it was just anything happened. Ocon.
Oh, I know. I don't feel bad for him at all, because I think he just deserved it. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, he was beat up by Gasly at the end of the season, and just his overconfidence.
Yes.
Didn't end up putting him higher. I could have put him at 11th or 12th, and then just you know what, tell the Haas to get out of the way, or be prepared because I'm coming. Come on.
Just don't say that stuff.
What are you doing?
Yeah, just don't say
You sound like an idiot.
Yeah, basically. Don't talk shit until you actually.
Yeah, so he because he did have a couple of good ones, and he was beating. I mean, he'd been there longer than Gasly, so it was expected that he should be doing better. That kind of fell off, but yeah.
Yeah. So I have Gasly in 13.
Me too.
And
I think is that the only, no, other than DeVries? I think that's the only one we have.
Yeah, so far. Yeah. So Gasly, I had him in 13 again, just because he did outperform his teammate the first year in the car. I think Gasly's also a little bit more tolerable than Ocon. Driving wise, anything amazing? No, he got a third.
He did get a podium finish this year.
I don't remember where.
It was in the back half of the season. I can't remember exactly what race it was.
But I mean, nothing super memorable. He just drove the car. He did well. I think this is probably a better fit for him. I
mean, I think his season turned around. When he stopped focusing on beating Ocon and just driving. Yeah. And he ended up doing. Yeah. And 2, the power of Ryan Reynolds and all the celebrity power. I think that's where his things just start to turn around. Yeah, I think so. You saw at the beginning of the season where he was trying to get pictures with Brad Pitt, which we all forgot about, that they're actually filming a movie while they're on at Silverstone and all that.
Totally forgot about that.
There was no mention after Silverstone. There was no mention of it ever again, which was weird.
Yeah.
But
the celebrity, I think he really likes.
I think so. Yeah. You see him putting on whatever he's putting on social media. Yeah. He's always at basketball games and all these things. He's always front row and
he's everywhere he needs to be. It
seemed to give him a little extra superpower.
Yeah.
So okay, there we go. We're at the same point there.
Okay. So number 12, I have Checo, which is probably gonna be interesting, but I have Checo.
I was close to that too.
But I mean, I know this is a few seasons ago. I do want to give him teammate of the year, teammate of the century.
But was he this year?
He was looking out for himself more this year, but I still think he does a lot for Red Bull. I think he puts up with a lot of shit for Red Bull. I think he wants to be there. He wants to be a part of this team. But performance-wise this year, it just wasn't there.
Well, and it's funny. Well, I mean, I'll get into my reasons why he is where he is, but it's funny that you say that when we're talking about a person who would have won the championship if it wasn't for Max Verstappen. Seemingly on points. I mean, somebody else would have had to win. He never won. Yeah. But you know what I mean. And it's, I mean, I'm not far off from you, so it's kind of, it feels kind of harsh to put him as low as he is. Yeah. But when you have that, I'll get to it.
When I was putting it down, I was like, I just feel like he can't be in my top 10, and then my number 11, it just...
Okay, your number 11, I'm interested to see. So my number 12 was Liam Lawson. I mean,
you had him there.
You forgot that I didn't mention him yet? Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I had him at 12 just because, I mean, and it's going to be the same kind of where my ranking for Oscar is. When you get somebody who comes in, I mean, Oscar had more preparation time.
Right.
He came in out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't really have the preparation that everybody else had. He qualified. He was the best. What do I have here? Oh, it's Yuki. Sorry. What am I reading?
These are his notes, guys.
Anyways, he was able to. He had like 5-6 races. I think it was 5 races. He was able to get some points on those 5 races.
Yeah.
And a car he's never really driven. Probably only just simulator, maybe a couple practice sessions.
Yeah.
I think he deserved more time. I get why they put Daniel in there.
Yeah.
But I think he deserved a driving seat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There just unfortunately isn't one to be had. He
Yeah.
qualified fairly well for the most part. He was never below, I think. Well, he was below 15 once or twice. But he was consistently in that midfield.
Yeah.
Or he was at least threatening and pushing himself and pushing the car.
Yeah.
And pushing Yuki. I think he was the only driver really to push Yuki.
Yeah. I remember like at one point in the season it was like, is Yuki's spot, like should Yuki be a little bit nervous because this kid that came out of nowhere is driving the wheels off the car? Like I don't think Yuki was going to go anywhere, but it was just kind of like, you've had a couple years in this car. This kid has not had years in Formula One.
Yeah.
And he's driving your car
really well. Who knows what would have happened if he had the other 17 races in the season.
Right.
But for what he was, in the races that he was noticeable.
Right.
Right. And so I thought he drove the car really, really well.
Yeah. And I mean, he came, like, he didn't even get to qualify in the car. He just went right into the race because Daniel broke his hand during qualifying, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So he just popped in on a Sunday and just got in the car and drove.
You're right.
So
I forgot about that part. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that good on you for having him in. Would you have him 12?
12, yeah.
Yeah.
12.
Okay. My number 11 is George. George Russell.
Again, I'm not far off from that.
I think he had a good season. I wouldn't say a great season. He had a good season. Obviously 2022 he won in Brazil.
He won a race.
He'll
finish with more points.
Yeah, I just feel like he was more focused. The focus for him, I felt like, was beating Lewis this season.
Yeah.
Instead of like
similar on that.
Yeah, it was kind of weird the dynamic that they had this year. So, purely that. I mean, he drove the car. In some races actually did better than Lewis. It kind of gave Lewis a run for his money in some races. But yeah, I had him in 11. He didn't break my top 10.
Interesting. Okay. So my 11, I had Yuki. Okay. I think he had, for a guy to come in, or not come in, but to be there, to have 3 separate teammates and be better than all 3 teammates. One a veteran, fair 2 point. Rookies, and 1 rookie gave him a run for his money a little bit. But he was better for the most part than all his teammates. He was a very consistent driver this year. Yeah. I didn't see him in a lot of trouble. I really miss the Yuki blow-ups. Yeah. And I'm not talking about dolls. I just just the team radios from Yuki. Yeah. I mean, he did have a couple, but it wasn't anywhere near. So he seemed to be maturing a little bit more as a driver, a little more calm, actually understanding. Like, I don't understand. I don't know how to say it, especially coming from a Drive to Desire fan. I'm probably gonna get shit for this, but like, he understood the race a lot more. Like, he understand what it takes to be consistent.
I think he understood like the strategy as well, like what his team was trying to tell him. Like now he was just like, okay, get it. Like it just took him a little bit. Yeah.
That's our top.
Okay.
12. Yes. Our bottom 12. 12. that was our 11 to 15. Yeah. So now we're getting into the top 10. Okay. So obviously we're already very different. We're very different on this.
Okay.
So, do you want to go with your 10?
Like do all 10?
No.
Okay, my number 10. My number 10 is Daniel. I kind of personal, but just like
a little more than kind of, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a nice guy. I don't know him at all, but he's just a likable person. Nice to have him back.
Yeah.
On the track. I think he did well for coming back, but I don't know if he races the same way this year or last year as he does. If he did races like that in 2024, he'll probably be a lot lower for me.
So I don't. Yeah, well, obviously you know why I don't agree with that. I just don't think he showed enough to be in the top 10. I get your personal bias.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put him higher, but I couldn't agree with it.
Yeah.
So my number 10 was Sergio Perez. It was Czech.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
He was almost half a second slower on average than Max. He could barely get out of qualifying in the fastest car on the grid. He
like 8 times. I think he was out in like Q1.
I have that. 9 times.
9 times.
9 times starting out of the top 10. 4 times only in 9th. Right. So at the bottom of your grid.
Yeah.
Your top 10. He only had 9 podiums. He had 2 wins, which sucked. It's crazy to put him at 10th, but he only had 9 podiums.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, after
in the
same
first, car.
Yeah. After the first 4 or 5 episodes, first 5 races, they're gonna drive to survive.
Yeah.
He was gone.
Yeah.
He was gone, and it's unfair because gone for a car like that means like 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
Some
teams are like praying for that.
But Max doubled his points. In that car.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I had him at 10th. Obviously, it's unfair. But again, his qualifying, his consistency just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it should have been. He could have easily driven that, like, especially when Max is winning by 30 seconds, 40 seconds at the beginning of the year. Checo should have been, at least 15 seconds behind him and 15 seconds ahead of everybody else.
Right. I think confidence probably played a factor in that too. Like, again, as the season went on, I think his confidence level just went really down and down, but
especially with all the rumors that he might be gone and all that.
I think a lot of he just took an overall hit, and it sucks. I mean, I didn't love putting him in 12th either, but
you did.
But I did. You at least gave him top 10. Sorry, guys. Okay, 9. I think you'll be shocked with this one. I have Carlos Sainz. You'll be shocked
I am shocked.
For me.
I am shocked.
So,
I struggle with Sainz, so I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, but he was considerably higher than that for me.
Okay, so I didn't love putting him this low, but I think this was one of the first years that and maybe this was like him just trying to take over and just doing what he wants with the strategic team, but you kind of got to see him do the job. Like, before he just kind of drove and was kind of in the background, where this season I feel like he was making waves a little bit, but just not enough to be, I mean, he won, but based on that strategic thinking and planning, and you could see him prove that he can do it. I think if he does that again this year, he'll be higher for me, but it was painful to put him at 9.
I didn't think that was going to be...
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be in the top 5.
Yeah, like he's number 1 for sure.
Yeah, okay, I'm still just getting over that.
Yeah.
So my number 9 was Georgie Porgy. He had good race pace. He always did. He was always on somebody's tail. He was always on Lewis's tail, or they were fighting. He was down on points from last year, so this is why I have him lower. One of the reasons why I have him lower. It seemed like he was a little bit more, instead of driving the car, it was like he was trying to force it a little bit sometimes. You saw that in Singapore when he hit the wall. He just a little too close, trying to make that extra little second. Instead of taking a third, he ends up he ends up done. He's gone out of the points. Just for pushing it a little too much to the limit. A little too much complaining about everybody else on the grid. You know what I mean? And that's a part of the whole forcing it part, right? So that's one of the reasons why I had him up there as well. And this just caused him mistakes. He had a few that he was out on. Just some bad racing decisions a little bit. And then confusion. His team radios were a little weird. Yeah. He just seemed out of his element this year.
He didn't seem comfortable.
No.
At all. And I don't know if there's something going on like in the team or what.
I don't think so. I think that's all in his head. I think it's just him.
He's making it up, whatever it is.
I think it's him just trying to prove himself a little too hard and just forcing it too much.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Number 8.
Like we'll be the same here.
I have Oscar.
Oh, we're not the same.
I have Oscar.
I have Oscar in 7.
Okay. So then I kind of think I know what
Spoiler alert.
But yeah, I think I know what you're...
Anyways, yeah, go on.
Okay. So I have Oscar. I just think coming in as a rookie, being the youngest on the grid with another young teammate, he just drove the wheels off that car. Like, he took command. He didn't care that Lando is the golden boy of McLaren. He's like, okay, cool. I'm just going to do my job. Like, and I think he stuck to that. I don't think I could put him any higher for me. Just, there's a lot of people that I think did better. But I just think as a rookie, he did really well. I think he is going to have a great 2024 as long as the car does well for him. I think he has like a bit of like a no bullshit.
Yeah.
Just give me a car that works and I'm going to drive it. And I don't care who my teammate is. I don't care who's beside me. I mean, he's willing to fight Max. So good for him. And I think he's definitely top 10.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
So my number 8, I'm sure you can guess, Alex Albon.
Okay.
Right? So I'm guessing he's your number 7.
Yeah.
He showed how talented he is.
Yeah.
In, not the slowest car, which, I mean, kudos to Williams for providing a better car this year.
Yeah.
As they show as long as they have a driver in it.
Yeah.
But, he had, what was it, 7 finishes in the top 10, right? I think it's a 7.
Yeah.
7 or something 8,
like
something like that. He put Williams into 7th place on his back because Logan only got 1 point.
Yeah.
So he made them millions of dollars.
Yeah.
He outqualified his teammate, which shouldn't be hard.
Yeah.
But in 22 of all of the races.
Yeah.
Right. And he was a defensive genius.
Yeah.
Right. He backed up the pack so many times.
Yeah.
He was really hard to overtake.
Yeah.
For me, it was probably his best season.
Yeah.
Not outside. Yeah, probably his best season. Just to show like his pure racing talent.
Yeah.
And we'll get in maybe another prediction thing, but I think this is the season that really showed other teams what a talent he is.
Yeah. So that's actually like a lot of what you said is kind of what I had for him, but I have him at number 7. I think he's built for a better car.
Yeah.
He's driven in better cars.
We'll get to that in the next episode. I don't want to give everything away.
Yeah. He pushed, I think, his own limits. He pushed the car's limits. He pushed the grid.
Definitely.
I think he really shocked everybody. So I think he did a really good job. Montreal was great for him, really backing up the grid.
Yeah.
I don't even think Williams knew that the car could do what he did with the car. So I think all kudos to him. So that's why I have him in 7.
There you go.
Yeah.
So my 7 is obviously Oscar. Even when the car was shit, he still had, like, you'd still tell he was fast.
Yeah.
He wasn't provided a car, like you said. He was, like we said in the last episode, or first episode, second episode, I can't remember what it was. He's my serial killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he didn't care. He's just going to go ahead. He's going to do it. A lot of poise in that car.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he's trying to, kind of not push Lando, not necessarily take him over.
Right.
But I don't think he could. But I think that motivation for him really put him in a league of his own, and probably one of the best rookie seasons F1 has seen.
Yeah.
And it showed once he was in a car that could actually compete what he could do.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think it's going to be long before we see him get a race win.
Agree.
I don't know if it'll be next year, but I don't think...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he got the sprint
I don't count that as a race win. Okay. That's not a race win. It's a sprint win.
Okay.
It's a sprint win.
Yeah, but we're
not going to fight over
this. I think if the sprint, which is why they're called sprints or shorter races, if it was any longer, even if it was like 2 more laps, I don't think he would have won.
No.
No,
that's why I don't think it counts.
Like, it's, doesn't count.
He drove brilliantly.
Yes.
And good for him. That's why they don't give him a trophy. They give him a little tire or whatever the hell it is.
There you go. There's a plaque.
Yeah, exactly.
Trophy. Yeah. Okay. I think he'll have, which kind of goes into my predictions, but this is where you're gonna be like, what the hell? I have Valtteri.
In 6? In 6.
In 6. And you're like, I'm over it. I'm done. Yeah, I don't know why I have him in 6th. I think, I think I might have mentioned this before, or we've talked about it. I think him getting away from Mercedes was like the best decision for him. Not that he's in the best car, but I think he can now, I think he just likes F1 to drive. Like he literally, it's his passion.
Yeah, I get that. I don't think it's the best thing for him to leave Mercedes if he's going to go to medium rare steak. It doesn't pull his talents out. Like if he went anywhere else, if he was there, instead of Sargent, he was there, I think it would have been much better.
Yeah.
Right. But that's. I
just think he enjoys. I think he enjoys racing. Is he getting the finishes that he was at Mercedes? No. Something tells me it doesn't bother him though.
Oh, I think it does.
You think so?
I think it does.
Like his post-race interviews, like I just feel like he's like, yeah, it was,
I think he wants to. I think he knows he has the ability to get the points.
Yeah.
I think it's frustrating for him to be in that car. There was no other place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, consistently being told to move over and let.
Yeah.
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 I get it.
Yeah. When he's able to qualify in a top 5 from one car, and then all of a sudden you can't get out of a Q1.
Yeah. I don't know. I still had him in 6th. I'm hopeful for him.
That's your terrible choice. It's fine. Jeez. Okay. After whatever that was you just said.
Okay.
So I had Sainz in 6th.
Okay.
I had to put him in 6th. He was the only other non-Red Bull race winner.
Yeah.
That obviously put him in my top 10.
Yeah.
He was great in qualifying. He showed a lot of pace throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
I think he would have been beaten by Leclerc. It would have been a lot more, not non-existent, but overshadowed by Leclerc if Leclerc didn't have a lot of reliability issues and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He would have been so much better in Vegas if the FIA didn't screw him.
Yes.
So I was a bit unfair. Actually, a few unfair FIA decisions.
I think he would have been very competitive in Vegas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then, like you said, his strip strategy and everything. I had to put him in 6th.
In 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's higher.
I mean, if you look at him, like I have here, Sainz versus Leclerc. Okay. So pole positions, Leclerc had 5. We'll get into that after. And Sainz had 2 wins. Obviously, he had the 1 podiums. It was 6-3 for Leclerc, so not too far off. Finishes ahead. Leclerc finished 10 ahead of Sainz. He had 5.
Right. But a lot of them, they were like
qualified
4 or 5.
And they were qualified. Obviously, Leclerc out qualified Sainz most of the time was 15-7, but it wasn't far off. Again, like it was mostly like the 1, 2, or 3, 4, or whatever. They were pretty close together. I mean, they only had like a 1/1000th of a second race delta between them, and their points they only finished 6 points apart.
Yeah.
So I think obviously that would have been bigger if Leclerc didn't have so many issues, or if Sainz didn't have any. There are so many FIA issues, right?
If FIA didn't have issues with Sainz.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, so I had Sainz at 6.
Okay. So top 5. Okay, I feel like our top 5 is going to be very similar. I mean, there's only a few. We haven't said.
I think they're all going to be the same people. obviously.
Same people.
Yeah, the same people.
So I have 5th as Lando.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Second half of the season, I think we really got to see what Lando can do. I don't think he shocked himself, but I think he shocked a lot of people with like how smart he is in that car, in a car that's working, and what he can do and what he will do. I don't think this is the end. I think Lando's going to be a top 5 for a while.
Yeah.
Very smart with his overtakes, very smart with his driving. Yeah, so he's number 5 for me.
Okay. My number 5, I had Lewis.
Oh.
I had Lewis in 5.
Interesting.
He was consistently in the points for driving a shit car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not his fault that for some reason Mercedes came back with the no side pods and then switched it later on. But it somehow, that shitbox car talk continued to go on throughout the whole season, even though they finished second.
Yeah.
Not always because of what they did, but so we had that. He had much better focus than last year. Last year, he just seemed like he wasn't happy to drive that car. He was just happy to just be done with the race.
Yeah.
How many times he said, I don't think we can keep going. Right. It's not worth it. Let's not destroy the car.
Yeah.
He in Austin, he would have finished second if he wasn't disqualified for that. Him and Leclerc were both plank wear. But he was only 2.5 seconds, not even 2.5 seconds behind Max.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a brilliant drive by him. And then what do I have here? So I mean, if he can get a good car, he still has it. He's still that driver. He's still the greatest driver of all time, probably. Yeah. And so I had him at 5, only just based on performance this year, and not what he could be.
Okay. So I have him somewhere else. He's not my number 4. But basically for the same reason.
He's not your number 4.
Yeah. So my number 4, another shocker. I have Charles. Leclerc in 4th.
You were never going to get an invite to Ferrari.
I know. I think he is just... He probably knows strategy better than anybody on the grid because he has to. Well, yeah. I think there's other drivers that know strategy really well, but I think because of the unreliability of his strategist, he has to know it really well. And I think that maybe sometimes takes away from his ability to just drive because he's having to do so many jobs at once. I think he was being more vocal towards his strategy and saying no and showing.
Because he was fed up?
Well, yeah. And just... I found this year he really found ways to capitalize. The car was obviously, it's weird. The car was better this year, I think.
Yeah.
But he didn't finish as well as he did. I mean, he was fighting for first, really, or first or second in 2022. But he was really fighting Max for a long time.
Yeah.
But even if he couldn't get a win after all those pole positions, I still think he did find ways to capitalize the car as much as he could. I mean, the numbers that you said for Charles and Carlos, like he did figure the car out.
Okay. So my number 4 was Lando.
Okay.
So like as much as we saw Piastri's raw talent this year, we really saw Lando's maturity as a driver this year. Right? Yeah. And so it didn't matter who was behind him. He was going to drive. He was going to drive on the right line. He was going to take the chances that he needed to take, calculated chances. It wasn't risky. It wasn't but you could just see that the maturity to see the track, to make the points where he needed to make them.
Yeah.
You could see that even when he was still in that crap car. And then again, like Piastri, when you gave him a car, he was I think he could have fought Max, maybe. But in certain races, some races, not in all of them.
Not every single one. Yeah, for sure.
The fact that his trophy breaking and podium celebrations for me gets him in the top 10.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah. And then the rest of his year gets him at 4, right?
Yeah.
He was a top 5 driver on the grid in terms of talent for me. He also was driver of the day 5 times. And if even the days that he wasn't, he was in the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? You always noticed him on track.
His name was always a topic of conversation every single race.
And then his defense of like the Mercedes in Singapore, right? Aided by science. Yeah. But, I mean, just to keep it there and keep them behind him when they were right on his ass.
Yeah.
And to make George make a mistake because he couldn't get past them.
Yeah.
I think it was a really good season for him.
And he admitted that he did the exact same thing that George did and hit the side of the wall. So, I mean,
if it wasn't for McLaren's just, you know, if they were better consistently throughout the year, I think Lando could have finished second in the championship.
I think so. I would agree with that. Okay, number 3, I have Lewis.
Okay. Interested to see why.
I just haven't. I think it's just he's just been in a bad car. He is still a great driver.
Yeah.
The complaining and track limits, like, okay, let's stop that now. Like, he just does it to a different level. Like, we get it. Someone will see that they went to
Shouldn't that put him lower? Just be like, stop being a baby, drive the car.
But like, it should.
Which he's had been told multiple times this season.
Just drive.
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry, it's a shit car. Just drive the car.
Just drive. Just shut up and drive.
Yeah.
But I think I do still think he is he's a top dog. I think you can't argue it, so that's why I have him. I had to put him top 3. And then he's just been dominant for so many years. And I think okay.
We'll wait till next episode. So my number 3 was Charles. All right. He was the most consistent of the 2 Ferrari drivers. When he was given a car he could drive. When you
get invited to Ferrari, can I?
No. I will wave at you outside in that poor wet there. But he was the most consistent of the 2. He had the better fit. He had the better finishes overall.
Yes.
Other than Singapore.
Yeah.
He had 5 pole positions. I don't know how he can't. This is the only reason he's not in second for me is because he can't convert one of them.
Yeah.
Especially after having 9 pole positions straight without converting into a race win. Was it 9?
It might have been 11. Might have been more.
He drove the car to the limit all season, and was rarely the reason why he didn't finish. It wasn't him; it was more so the car itself.
Yeah.
And for me, that overtake on Perez in Vegas was the moment of the year for me.
Yeah.
Really, it was. I was on the edge of my seat. I was cheering visibly, even though I didn't really care. But yeah, so that's to me that he was overall this year. He was the 3rd best driver on the track.
Okay. I had Fernando as number 2.
Me too. So our top 2
are the same. Okay. And they're probably going to be the same reasons. I think he's the veteran on the track. I think he actually loves what he's doing now. I mean, I think he always did, but he had a lot of fun this season, and it converted to wins. It converted to podiums. He is, I think, the veteran mind. He's so good. He's watching the screens. He's watching the drivers. He knows how to there's times where Lance is in front of him, and he's to the pit wall, tell Lance to do this, or early braking. He is just so smart.
Yeah.
I had to put him in. He did so well for Aston Martin. I don't think anybody expected them to do as well in the beginning. And he just had to take.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're right. It's exactly the same. He had 8 podiums.
Yeah.
Other than 2 DNFs, he only finished out of the points once.
Yeah.
So he was consistent. I mean, he put them on their back.
Yeah.
I think they were 4th, 5th. I think it was.
Yeah.
Because it was Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Aston. So other than having to, drag his teammate along in the back of his car. He was the reason they won, right? And he was the ultimate teammate, like you said, this season, right?
Yeah.
He was helping with Lance, whether it was on the track or off the track.
Yeah.
He seemed like a pleasure to be around
with
everybody. Fun. Yeah. After everything else, like when he was an Alpine and everybody didn't like him, or just seemed a little more. There's more animosity in the paddock. Yeah. But no, he was great. It was a joy to watch.
Yeah. He had fun. He had fun this year. Okay, well then, no surprise, we both have Max at number 1.
Do we have to justify it?
No. I mean, my justification was that he knows his car. He knows every single track. He's just so locked in and laser focused. He knows how to push, when to not push. Like, he knows every person's job, every driver's job on the track. Like, he just... This year, it'll be...
Well, and even this year, when he had problems with, like, tires or something, you didn't even notice it. No. He knew how to drive it. He did it. He built himself he built himself a gap, or he had a better strategy. He just outsmarted. I get he was in the best car, but you see with Perez, even though you're in the best car, you still need somebody to drive it. Yeah. Right. And he drove it. He drove a car better probably than anybody else on the grid. Yeah. I agree. I got some stats here, just the records he broke.
Oh, okay.
Right. Most wins, 19. Highest win percentage, 83%. Most consecutive, 10. Podiums, 21. He was on the podium 21 times.
Out of 22.
22 like, come races. On. Most consecutive points, 1,004. That goes back to like last year, I think. Yeah. Obviously. He had 575 points out of 620 available. Jeez. Like, that's just ridiculous. Yeah. That's 92.7% of the points. And then most laps led, 1,000 out of 1,325 laps. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, every race, though, you're hearing Christian come on. Like, at the end of the race, oh, congrats, Max, another record. And then, another record. Another record for us.
I mean, is it the greatest? I mean, being early fans to this, is it the greatest season? If it isn't, and if anybody can let us know, if it isn't, it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not a perfect season.
No.
He didn't win a sprint or whatever. Or he didn't always get pole. Yeah. Even though he had a lot of them. But it was pretty...
He broke enough close. Records for it to be like... okay, well, I mean...
So that's our top 10. Very different until we got to the last...
Yeah,
like
last
3.
2.
Yeah, 2, really. Last 2. No, the last 4. We're all the same, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, well, okay. So we did our driver rankings.
We did.
So now we are going to do constructors.
Yeah, I mean, this one should be a little bit shorter, but I don't know if we're going to have much that's very different. Well, maybe the first two.
Yeah. No, okay.
Well, we'll see. Okay. So my number 10, I had Alfa Romeo.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I had Alpine.
You had Alpine?
Yeah.
With Alpine?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really have a reason.
For me, it's Ocon, isn't it? Yeah, it's Ocon. Alfa Romeo, I had them because they're basically a ghost car. You didn't notice them. They made a few points, but I mean, there was nothing to talk about other than their Vegas livery was the highlight of the season for them, probably. That was it. So that's why I had them in 10.
I had them in 9, so I mean, we're not far off there. Okay. And again, no real reason.
I know it's Ocon. It's 100%. It's Ocon.
Just no reason, but they had to. Yeah.
Okay, so you had Alfa Romeo your number 9.
Number 9. Kind of no reason there either. Just, I mean, I think it's kind of the same as you though. Actually, there's just nothing to write home about. They were consistent in not being great.
Yeah. That's basically the bottom 5.
Yeah, pretty much.
So mine, I had Haas. Again, like I said, the only reason that they were in the number 9 was because of Hülkenberg, and they were a one lap wonder, which I said that again, but that was it. It showed that the car could have some pace if driven well. Okay. But other than that, they were terrible.
Okay. I had Williams in, what is that? 8th. I had Williams. Basically, Albon got them into 8th for me. I think we got to see what the car could do, or what he could do in the car. So yeah, that was I had them in.
I had AlphaTauri at number 8.
Okay.
What I was wondering is, before the season, obviously they're doing preseason testing. They're doing testing of their drivers. They're doing everything. Did you know that De Vries was not going to work out and he just tried to force the issue?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, you signed him. He was highly touted. It's like, maybe he's going to just turn it around.
Yeah.
And that's why they gave him such a short leash.
Maybe.
So for me,
Conspiracy theory.
there has to be some kind of... There had to be some kind of inkling that he wasn't going to be the greatest, or they were just trying to force the issue.
Yeah.
That and the fact that they were consistent, but the driver issues were an issue for me. But yeah, that's where I had them. I had them at 8.
Okay. I had Haas in 7. I think...
Last on the grid up to 7th.
Yeah, I mean, I think that and to your point earlier, I think Nico brought them up for me. I think they did.
Well, I mean, you did have K-Mag in, what was it, 11?
I had it in 14th.
Yeah, I blanked out.
But I think they were able to just... It's funny, they ended last, but I felt like they had a decent season. I just felt like they weren't as many... maybe not.
You must have been hungover for a lot of these races.
Maybe I was.
Yeah. We live in Canada, so we're on Eastern time. Yeah. So it's always usually in the morning.
Yeah. I don't know. I had them in... Maybe it was like wishful thinking.
You're just hopeful.
Yeah, I'm just,
It's the opposite of Alpine.
Yes. Yes. Complete opposite.
So for me, number 7, I had Williams. You could see that they're making smaller improvements. If they had a better second driver, could they have finished higher than AlphaTauri? Possibly. I believe they could have. Wait, did they? No, AlphaTauri's ahead. I think they could have finished ahead of probably, maybe even Alpine. Just the way their drivers, if they had a second driver, sorry.
Yeah.
That might be a little stretch, but you could see the improvement in them, and that was solely due down to, like, they gave a decent car, not decent, better than most of the bottom.
Yeah.
And they just needed the drivers for it.
Yeah. I don't know if, and this is, I guess, part of our driver rankings, but I just don't know if Logan is comfortable in that car. But that's a whole other story.
Well, he's checking everything in miles instead of kilometers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Step 1. So in 6th, I had AlphaTauri. Kind of the same as you. Like, they got by. They did... Yuki, I would say. Yuki did what he needed to do to get them up there. Nick didn't help.
No.
Daniel. I think they weren't last. They were kind of in the midfield for me, so that's where they are there.
Well, I had that. 6 was Alpine. To me, they were the best of the worst, which isn't saying much. But yeah, I don't think that their team decision to put Gasly and Ocon together, who don't like each other, was the best idea. I get that they're 2 good drivers.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to help your team chemistry. You saw when they came together in, was it Miami? Something like that.
Yeah.
It's just, the chemistry to me isn't there. I think that's a bad team decision. They could have been a lot better if and it wasn't a great car in general.
No.
So to me, that's why they're 6th.
Okay. Top 5. I have Aston Martin.
Me too. All right.
Okay.
I thought you were going to shock me here.
No, I have Aston Martin in 5th. I think just dominant on Fernando's side.
Yeah.
But I think we got to see what the car could do, can do. I mean, Lance wasn't horrible in some of his finishes, but obviously Fernando carried the team. So right in the middle.
I mean, I had them there too. Their strong season start is what got them into that top 5. What kept them at 5 was that their upgrades were downgrades.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens. They would have been higher. I probably would have had them higher than Mercedes and maybe McLaren if they could have kept up the consistency.
Okay.
But yeah, Fernando and the beginning of the season put him in that 5. Lance and the terrible upgrades is what kept them at 5 and not any higher.
Yeah.
For me.
Okay. So this is where it gets a little funny because now it doesn't match how the finishes happen. So I have I have Mercedes in 4th.
Me too.
Oh, okay.
Wow, this is weird.
Okay, so I have so then we have the same top for sure.
We have the same top 3. We don't know if they're the same way.
Yeah, I think they're the same way.
Okay.
So Mercedes, I have them in 4th. I know they finished 2nd. I think that was just pure coincidence coincidence on other teams' failures is what got them to be in 2nd. Is how I feel.
See, I think they shot themselves in the foot. I think they could have been much better.
Yeah.
They were stuck on their plan at the beginning of the year when they didn't have to be.
Yeah.
They could have just moved on. Like, okay, your car in 2022 was shit.
Yeah.
So stop working on it at some point and start working on that one and make a drastically different car.
Yeah.
If you don't make a drastically different car, you're not going to have a drastically different beginning of the season.
Right.
And so I think that's where they could have easily finished 2nd. Much easier than they did.
Yes. Because they like were scraping by there just to get it was literally down to the last race and Charles was making business decisions for the team but so I had them in they had to be 4th for me. 3rd, that's McLaren.
I have 3rd Ferrari.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to win back.
See?
I'm trying to win back. Oh, you gotta.
That's.
I'm trying to win back into Ferraris. Maranello. But yeah, so I had McLaren. I think the slow start for me is what probably put them in 2nd. Or in 3rd, sorry. But I think they found their footing in the second half, and I think they will continue there.
Yeah. So I had Ferrari in 3rd just because, again, they had the reliability
Neither of us could talk that.
issues in the second half. The beginning of the season. They had still had strategy issues. They couldn't make a decision or a proper decision to save their life.
Yeah.
They had to leave it down to the drivers, which is not the driver's decision to make.
Yeah.
They're there to drive.
Yeah.
Right? You're supposed to tell them what the best strategy is.
Yeah.
You pay strategists.
Yeah. Otherwise, get out of my ear.
Do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what they told them most of the time. Like, just shut up and let me drive, and I'll figure it out. And so that put Ferrari in 3rd for me.
Yeah.
Just because the team around the drivers was not the greatest. They put out a good car.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get the driver. Like, they should have been a hell of a lot closer.
Yeah.
To Red
think
Bull.
so. I think so too. I had them in 2nd. I think just that fight at the end there between Mercedes and Ferrari. I think they did a little bit more throughout the season. They weren't great. They didn't win. They won one, but I think just based on coincidence, they didn't get 2nd. So for me, it's not coincidence. It's failures in the different teams and stuff. But and Mercedes doing enough to get to 2nd. But for me, I have them as number 2.
I've got McLaren mostly for. Actually, I was gonna joke around and say Red Bull, but I should have. Excuse me. I had McLaren again. It was just their turnaround. They put this probably the second. I can't even say second strongest driver pairing because I'm really torn between Lewis and George. I guess based on just this year, probably the second best driver pairing. Because I don't think Lewis and George were the strongest driver pair this year. I think overall they might be. But McLaren was the second strongest driver pairing this year.
Yeah.
And they were able to show that brilliance, and as long as they gave them the car, which they did, and they turned it around for a 4th place finish, which was amazing. And then not a lot of difference between their drivers.
Yeah.
Right?
I also think with them too, they're not forcing their drivers to be best friends.
No.
And like, I think they get along, or it seems like they get along, but they're just cool. Like and I think maybe that's an issue where maybe it's the public is forcing them to be best friends.
As
like,
cool as a serial killer and a victim can be. But call back, go listen to episode. I'll go listen to both the ones before this.
To all
listen
of
to
our
both if you haven't already.
Okay.
Number one is Red Bull. I mean,
here we go again. Do we have to explain?
It's just like Max. It's probably one of the most dominant car or constructor seasons. Out there. I know Lewis complained about it a lot. That you shouldn't have a gap like this, but he forgets how many times or how bad of a gap they were beating people in like 2016, 2017, and 2015.
It just feels shitty to be on the other end of it. I just think they did what they had to do, and they're just
halfway through the season. They just said, "We're not going to upgrade our car anymore. Catch up if you want to catch up, which you can't." And then we're just going to start working on next year.
I mean, winning constructors and drivers with like 7 races to go, or 6, however many races it was remaining. Like
as of the time of this recording, they've already stopped development. Well, sorry, not stopped development. Slowed down development on next year's car. And they've already started working on 2025's car. I mean, that's how much time they already had to work on 2024's car.
They were like, we're good, guys. We're good.
So, I mean, that's our rankings. There's not really much more to say on constructor rankings.
No.
Pretty self-explanatory, kind of.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
All right, well,
so that's the episode. That's episode 3. That's our Where They Fall episode.
Where They Fall.
Yeah. So the next episode, we're going to get into our predictions.
Predictions for 2024.
So we're going to get a bunch of different things. Some normal predictions, some maybe outside of the box predictions, some hot takes. And then maybe we'll get into a little bit of where we think drivers are going to land in the silly season of next year.
That's part of my predictions.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll get into it.
Get into
it. So yeah.
If you want, and please do, find us on all
Not
social
if you want.
media.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it now.
Find us on social media. Fresh Set Podcast on Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah.
You can find us on Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. Yeah. YouTube. So and all those channels, like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, follow. What else do they do? Rate
all those
us,
other things.
Comment that we're amazing.
Yeah. And then look us up at Fresh Set Podcast on all platforms. Yeah. Because we forgot to say that last time.
Fresh Set Podcast.
Fresh Set Podcast. All one word, no caps.
All right, everybody. Thank you, and we'll
see you in the next week.